In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Flatten Presentation group in the Publish tab of the Timesavers add-in. The Flatten Presentation group is there to help you to flatten your presentation to secure all of the clip art and things that you need to in order to sell your products on TPT or elsewhere. Okay, there are a few options you have when you are going to use this feature in the Timesavers add-in. This drop down over here gives you a number of different options that you can select or deselect. Okay, the first one is don't flatten text. I've added this in. It didn't used to be part of this tool, but I've added this in because of accessibility, where screen readers might struggle to read text that is in the form of an image. So you can choose if you want to have all text automatically not flattened in your presentation, then you can select this option, or you can deselect it if you don't want to keep text unflattened. If you want to flatten text, then you just make sure that that is deselected, and then anything that you don't want to be flattened, you need to make sure you tag it appropriately. But if you have this option selected, then before flattening, the add-in will check through every single shape in your presentation to see if it contains text. And if it contains text, it will not flatten that shape. The only exception to that is if things are on the slide master. If it's on the slide master, it will be flattened no matter what it is. If it has text, if it has a link, it will be flattened. Okay, so that is the don't flatten text option. That's to help with accessibility. If you are wanting to make sure that your presentation or that your document, your resource is more accessible for people needing to use screen readers, then you can choose to not flatten the text. Then over here we've got Flatten PDF. This is if you are going to be using the add-in to create your PDF, to save your PDF. In the presentation group over here, you can export to PDF, or in the marketplaces tab over here, you can also export to PDFs. If you're going to use either of those two options to save your PDF, then if you have this option selected, then when you save your PDF, it will automatically flatten your presentation before exporting to PDF. Okay, so that is what that is for. It'll only come into effect if you are going to be using that button over there or this button over here. Okay, then over here, the background images. This is for the images that get exported for the background of all of the slides. You can choose to set your resolution. This tool used to ask you every single time you were flattening what resolution you wanted to have. I've changed it now, so you can set your default resolution. So you can click on there, it'll give you a window to fill in the resolution you want. The default is 300, but you can change it to whatever you want. I'm going to leave it at 300. And then if you have an older version of PowerPoint, you may want to have this option selected, and that is to limit the backgrounds to a maximum of 3000 pixels in either direction, because with older versions of PowerPoint, if you export images that are more than 3000 pixels in either direction, then the images can become distorted, they can be messed up. So it might be a good idea, if you do find that that happens, to have this option selected, because then it will use the maximum resolution based on what you have set over here. But if this resolution causes it to be too big, if it causes it to be more than 3000 pixels, then it will limit it to the 3000 pixel maximum so that you won't end up with distorted pictures. Okay, so that's what those are about. And then you can choose if you want your background images to be PNG or JPEG format. Then over here, this two-stage option, this is for if for some reason the auto version of the flattening feature doesn't work, then you can choose a this two-stage option as well. It shouldn't be necessary. The add-in is supposed to detect if you're working on a Mac or if you're working on a PC, and it's supposed to adjust accordingly. If for some reason it doesn't work properly, you can use this two-stage option, which will then, you click on it, and then when you choose to flatten, it will start the flattening process for you. Then you will export all your slides as images and then insert them, and then you click on the button again and we'll finish the flattening process for you. So that's what that two-stage one is about. If for some reason the flattening process does not work on its own, then you can use that, but it shouldn't be necessary. Okay, so those are all the options that are now available when you are flattening using the add-in. Over here, I've got different ways for you to tag your shapes in your presentation. First of all, this flatten button over here, you shouldn't need to use it unless you're wanting to remove a tag that you've already given to a shape. Okay, so anything you don't tag will automatically be treated as though it was tagged for flattening. Okay, so anything that you don't tag as movable or editable will be flattened. Unless you have chosen not to flatten text, then any shape that has text won't be flattened. Okay, it will be treated as though it was editable. But if you have already tagged something as movable and then you change your mind and you decide, actually, no, I want it to be flattened, then that is what this button is for, is to remove any tags that you don't actually want to be there. Okay, so what these are for is the movable. Anything that you have tagged as movable will be kept on the slide so that if somebody is using your presentation in an interactive way, then they can click on it, they can move it, they can do stuff with it. Okay. If you have tagged it as editable, then it will be put on the slide master, but that only applies if you are flattening for PowerPoint. If you're flattening for PDF, then these two actually just get treated the same. Okay, but if you're flattening for PowerPoint, then editable shapes get put onto the slide master, which means that you can still access them, you can still edit them, but somebody who is using your presentation will not easily be able to move it around and change it. Okay, they'd still be able to access it if they went into the slide master as well, but it's more difficult. They can't just easily select it by accident and move it and delete it or anything like that. Okay, so that's what those are. And then again, like I said, the flatten is just really there to remove any tags that you've put on that you decide you don't want. This all slides button allows you to apply any tags that you have already given to shapes to matching shapes in all slides. Okay, and then this button allows you to check the slide or the tags throughout the presentation. So let me just show you what all of these are. So first of all, this first shape has a link. Now, you don't need to do anything for linked shapes. The add-in will automatically detect any links that you have in your presentation, and it will automatically preserve those links. It won't keep the shapes unflattened. It will still flatten the shapes, but it will still preserve the link, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If you want it to not be flattened, if you want this linked shape to be movable or to be editable, then you can tag it as such. But if you don't tag it, the link will still be preserved. Okay, it will be flattened, but the link will still be preserved. So if you have clip art that has a link, then you can just leave it and the clip art will be secured. It will still be flattened, but the link will be preserved. Okay, so that's what happens with links. Then over here I've got a shape that contains text. So because I have the contains text or the don't flatten text option selected, that will not be flattened even though I'm not tagging it in any way. This one over here is just going to be a regular shape. And then this one I'm going to tag as movable. And this one I'm going to tag as editable. Okay. And then over here, I'm going to just quickly copy that over here and I'm going to remove the tag. Okay, so if I click on the check button, you can see now that this has been outlined in yellow because it's movable. This has been outlined in turquoise because it is editable. And this one, because I removed the tag, it's not outlined. Okay. If I take this and I click on the all, and I select that and I click on the all slides button, then if I go to this slide, you can see it's now been outlined in yellow as well. It has now been given the same tag as the shape that I selected because it matches that shape. Okay, it's in the same size, and it's in the same position on a different slide. It is a matching shape, so it has been given the same tag that this one has. Okay, so that is what this all slides button is for. And this check button just allows you to see all the tags that you have given. Okay, so at the moment I have tagged this one as movable, this one as editable, and this one is going to automatically be kept as editable because I haven't tagged it as anything else. This one I I'm not tagging at all, and it doesn't have anything special about it. It's just a plain shape. And then these two both contain links. This one did contain a link. There. And then these two both contain links. Okay, so now I'm going to go and I'm going to flatten. Now you can see that there are two options for flattening. This is new for the Flatten Presentation group. There used to only be one flatten button. Now I've got two. They are going to be flattened in different ways for the two options. Okay, if you choose to flatten for PowerPoint, what's going to happen is it will flatten it. Anything that is movable will be kept on the slide, and everything else is going to be put onto the slide master, so that it's not accessible for somebody who's using it as a PowerPoint and using it as an interactive activity or something like that. Okay. When you flatten for PowerPoint, please take note that it is not reversible. You will not be able to undo the flattening. You won't be able to unflatten it again. So what's going to happen is it's going to automatically ask you for a file name to save this presentation as, so that you can, so you don't end up overwriting the unflattened version of the file. When the add-in flattens your presentation, it will automatically save the unflattened version before it carries on and actually flattens the presentation. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly save this. I'll save it over here. Okay, now I have got this button over here. So I'm going to go and flatten for PowerPoint now. Okay, so I click on that. It's now asking me, it says that it's been flattened, and it's asking me what I want to save the flattened version of this file as. Okay, and it automatically fills in a name, the same name the presentation already has, and then it says flattened. You can change this, but if I try and take off the flattened so that it's the same name as what the presentation already is, it's going to tell me that I can't, because it's going to cause me to overwrite the unflattened presentation. Okay, so I'm going to choose to save it as that. And now if I look at what has happened over here, this one was movable, so it is still on the slide, it is still movable, but everything else is not movable. This one over here is movable because it was also tagged as movable, so they are both on the slide and they can be moved around. Everything else I can't move unless I go to the slide master. Okay, in the slide master, remember I hadn't tagged this one as anything, but because it contains text, it was automatically tagged as editable when the presentation was flattened, the same as this one, which I tagged as editable. So they have both been placed on the slide master, and they can be moved around, they can be edited if I want to, and screen readers will be able to read them properly because it is still text. Okay, over here, these are my linked shapes. Now remember I said that links will be preserved, but the shapes will still be flattened. So if you look over here, here is my linked shape that has now been placed on top of the background which contains that flattened shape. Okay, so the link has been preserved, but the shape has still been flattened. Okay, and the same thing for this one over here. The link is still there, but the shape has been flattened. Okay, so that is what happens when you choose to flatten for PowerPoint. Right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that. Okay, I'm just going to undo all of that quickly, and now it's unflattened again. Okay, because I can unflatten by undoing, but if I save and come out again, then I can't unflatten it. Okay, so now everything is back to how it was before I flattened. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the flatten for PDF option. Now the flatten for PDF is going to work differently to flatten for PowerPoint. When you flatten for PDF, everything is going to stay on the slide. It's not going to be put onto the slide master, it's going to stay on the slide. And also you will be able to unflatten if you want to. Okay, so if I take this over here and I click on flatten for PDF, It's going to flatten it. Now it tells me that it has been flattened, and if I want to, I can unflatten it by clicking on the unflatten button. Let's just have a look over here. This is flattened like that, but the link has been preserved. But if I unflatten, then this shape is the same as it was before. Please be aware, if you used the Flatten Presentation group before I added this feature, then this unflatten button will not work on anything that you flattened before, because what you flattened before was done in the way that the Flatten for PowerPoint works. Okay, so this unflatten button will only work on things that you flatten with this version of the add-in. Okay, but this means that you will be much less likely to end up losing your unflattened presentation, because now I've built in a way for you to unflatten it, and also if you're saving it as a PDF, then it doesn't allow you to overwrite the unflattened presentation as well. Okay, then I just want to quickly show you. So if I chose not to select this, if I chose to flatten the text, then if I go and flatten for PDF, then over here, my text shape that I didn't tag as anything will be flattened. Anything that you haven't tagged will be flattened unless it contains text and you have chosen this option. Then anything that contains text won't be flattened. These two are still selectable. They haven't been flattened because I had tagged them as movable and as editable. Okay, and remember, when you're flattening for PDF, those two actually work the same. It's only when you're flattening for PowerPoint that those are different. Okay, so that is how the Flatten Presentation group works in the Publish tab of the Timesavers add-in. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you. Goodbye.